This week on our AMP America Week in Review, Remso drops a bombshell theory about a certain Midwestern politician's dark, hidden secret. But first, we dive deep into the murky waters of Project 2025 and its alleged connection to Trump. Is it the end of democracy as we know it, or just another political smokescreen? You don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Well, happy Friday there, folks. Brian Nichols here on another fun-filled episode of the Brian Nichols Show, our AMP America Week in Review. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by our phenomenal sponsors, AMP America. Go get the news you need to know without the corporate media bias or fluff. They have articles, news pieces, opinion pieces, podcasts, and more. One more time, ampamerica.com. Also, the Brian Nichols Show is powered by, yes, our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. If you want to learn more about Cardio Miracle and how it can help give you the best heart health of your life, it's going to help lower your blood pressure, lower your resting heart rate, plus a slew of other amazing benefits. Stick around. We're going to talk about more of that later in today's episode. But elephant in the room. We had debate here this past week, and the outcomes were a little iffy. And to discuss all that and more, joining us from said AMP America, Remso W. Martinez. Welcome back to our AMP America Week in Review. How you doing, buddy?
It's Friday.
It is Friday. I'm so tired. I was flying all week. I was out in Salt Lake for a while. I just got back last night around midnight. So I am definitely I'm going on fumes today, Remso. So I might rely on you to push us through the episode today. But how you been? What's new?
Brian, if you're relying on me, I slept on the couch last night, not because I was in the doghouse, but you ever get in this mood where you're like, I'm going to work late and I'm going to do this. So maybe I could sleep in like an hour. I don't know what the hell happened, but my wife abandoned me because she was just like, he's not moving. I'm grabbing his foot. I'm going to tug him. I'm going to go sleep in the bed and he can have the couch.
Congratulations.
Not the fun type of tug, but it was just like a wake up, motherfucker, go to bed. And I was just like, so I woke up half on my cushion. It's a comfortable couch. When I was living by myself there, I would actually just fall asleep on the couch sometimes, but I'm older now. So I'm just all crooked. My neck can't move a certain way. So we'll make this work. Between the two of us, we are one functional human being.
Getting old sucks, man. All those injuries from yesteryear. I remember my grandmother used to pick on me. She's like, when you are older, you're going to feel all those football injuries, Brian. And I'm like, Nanny, I'm fine. And now I'm older and I feel all those football injuries. And I'm like, hey, you were right. She's like, oh, I know. And by the way, being a 6'5", 269-pound dude on an airplane for 3.5 hours in a confined space like this.
Sounds like hell.
It pretty much was. So the armrest was resting directly in the middle of my thigh and I was against the window and there was no way to get it out of my thigh. So I have a ginormous bruise. Yeah, dude, the adventures of being a giant on an airplane, a lot of fun.
I saw this thing, just total tangent. It's a bucket list goal in my life. I want to fly in a private jet one day just to experience it.
That'd be fun.
And there are all these apps where now they're making it accessible for non-rich people to fly private. Because basically what happens is you have, I'm totally not sponsored by, I don't even remember their name, but basically when somebody charters a flight, they rarely charter a return flight. So what you have these things called ghost flights, which are basically flights by pilots without passengers. So if somebody had a client who flew them to Milwaukee, it's actually better for them to cut the rate because they have to fly back anyway.
Regardless. Yeah.
So I see this and it's like $300 a year to be on the call list for this thing. So I'm like, shit, that sounds fun. So I download the app. I sign up for everything. I'm like, honey, we're flying private from now on. No, that's just to get on the wait list. Because then the reduced prices, I saw it was from Milwaukee to Las Vegas. Because I go to Las Vegas multiple times a year for business and for fun. Was you're paying the $300 a year on the call list, but then you have to bid.
You
So
have to bid for it.
the starting bids are like $2,500 per person. I'm looking at this. I'm like, damn it. It's not super consumer friendly yet. They lowered the barrier and I'm still way under the barrier. Damn it. I'm like, I'm sorry. We have to fly Southwest, but I'll make sure we're Group A.
Hey, I was Group 7 or Group, I guess that'd be like what, E?
I'm a dick.
Yeah, sure,
I will show up to the Southwest gate with my platinum Amex and I'll just be like, just fucking upgrade me. I'm still walking over to the emergency row anyway. And I'm always like, they always look at me. They're like, you want the emergency row? I'm like, yeah. Immediate leg room, no fat people, no old people, no crazy people, no smelly people. And then they're like, sure, are you willing to follow the procedures? I'm like, I will save everyone on this plane.
I will literally bring every single person into the inflatable raft.
Everyone is safe with me. I will save every person. I promise. Especially if you don't put anyone else next to me.
Say little old Beverly praying that she'll be carried out by Remso down the little inflatable slide on the airplane.
Yeah, just leave everyone who needed to pre-board. It's like, I'm sorry, the elderly, they have to comply. They can't be like, don't grab me there. I'm like, sorry, Grandpa, you drowning. Sorry, like that's just the case. But you know,
bringing me back to Nam. On that note, let's go back to Nam. Actually, not really to Nam. I was just trying to make a transition there to somebody who was stealing valor from military personnel. It was an attempt at a transition. Remso. Let's talk about Tim Walz today. So Tim Walz, we just had a presidential debate with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the first and question mark the last. And during the presidential debate, a lot of topics came up. One of which was, yes, the topic of abortion. Now, elephant in the room. I think Trump did a very good job at helping diffuse the abortion conversation because he said, let's bring it back to the states, right? And I think a lot of folks, both on the pro-choice and the pro-life side, they're like, yeah, that's at least a step in the right direction. Let's not have this be a federal conversation and have a one-size-fits-all decision that's going to impact all 50 states. Now, therein, there is a conversation to be had. Specifically, what will those individual states do? And this piece came up here. Well, not this specific piece, but this conversation point, Remso, during the debate. When you have babies who are born, right? Will they, or let's say the 9th month, if they are not wanted, will they be just pushed to the side, as the former governor Ralph Northam said of Virginia? We'll put the baby to the side, make the baby comfortable, and then
have a conversation.
Have a conversation. Yeah, the doctor and the mom and dad will have a conversation. And let's go to Minnesota. And this is important because the Minnesota governor Tim Walz, he's running as the vice presidential candidate with Kamala Harris and Tim Sharp. We have another piece come up here by Austin Peterson, but Tim Sharp over at AMP America. Tim Walz isn't just pro-abortion, he's pro-infanticide. During the debate on Tuesday, one of the ABC moderators, quote-unquote, corrected former President Donald Trump's claims about babies who survive unsuccessful abortions, stating that they are not killed. However, recent records from Minnesota indicate that not one, not two, but 8 babies have actually survived such procedures, but subsequently died after being denied critical medical treatment. Remso, I don't know. Like, I'm not a doctor. I can't say what a woman or a man is. But I am. I did stay at a Fairfield Inn last night, so I can go there. This sounds exactly like what Trump said it was on the debate stage, and I don't know. The ABC fact checkers said that this isn't true, Remso. So what's the dig? What's going on here?
Well, for one, I like to remind people, because you still have folks, who give the fake stream media so much more credit than they deserve. President of ABC News actually is the woman who introduced Kamala Harris and her husband. So take that for what you will. The female moderator, I don't remember her name from the debate on Tuesday.
Lindsay Davis.
Yeah, is a sorority sister of Kamala Harris.
I'm sorry, pardon my language. That is fucked up. You want to talk about like having some like, I don't know, bias? Let's toss that out there. Your sorority sister?
Did you ever see? There's a clip on Instagram Reels where you get like that daytime court show, Judge Joe Brown.
Yeah,
and he's dealing with this custody dispute, And he's like, and the woman's like, no, the judge is like, so what does he spend most of his time doing? And she's like, well, he likes to go out and hang out with his frat brothers. And the judge Joe looks at him and he's like, what frat you with? And he was like, Deltas. And they both flash each other like their secret handshake. And immediately you're like, oh yeah, this man ain't getting a free trial. That's how this felt. That's how this felt to me. But this is another situation of don't believe your eyes, your ears. I was living in Virginia when Ralph Northam made that statement, and people think that the massive protests were from pro-lifers. No, it was the massive protests asking for Ralph Northam to step down so that way Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor at the time, could step up, was because he wore blackface when he was a cadet at VMI in the 70s. And it was funny, too, because it really showed that Democrats don't care if you kill children. But if you do something in the 60s in the South that is remotely racist, and then people expect you to not, be the same type of person in, I think it was the year 2019. That's just that's just how they do it. But I mean, he in his words was like, if that happens, we'll put the baby aside, make sure it's comfortable, and we'll have a conversation. It's like, man, you were a pediatrician. Ralph Northam was a doctor. And it's just like, this is the hilarious thing. And people keep saying Kamala won. It's like Kamala won points amongst her supporters, but Donald Trump did not lose anything. I mean, it was not Trump's debate to win. It was Kamala's to lose. And you can tell a lot by how people act afterwards, because this debate almost didn't even happen. They wanted to do 3 additional debates when Joe stepped down, and Kamala made it so difficult. You can go ahead and see all the things that she was demanding, the time, the microphones, the podium size, and stuff like that. So Kamala gets her talking points in. Trump is like, okay, well, we wanted to do 3. We did 1. So we're only doing this, I guess. And I guess I'll just make plans for the rest of the election cycle. Kamala, tell me, if she did so well, why is she now, after the fact, demanding 2 more debates, a CNN and Fox News debate? And Trump posts on Truth Social. You see this in professional fights. It's always a person who loses the bout that says that they want a rematch. They want to run it again. Well, guess what? I'm not running it again. Yeah. So it's to tie back to this, it's a case of Walz and Harris and Walz running as conservatives in this race. Because I watched that entire debate, Brian. They're suddenly, pro border control. They're suddenly,
Tim Walz and I both have guns, so you got to stop with that lie. Like, okay,
if Tim Walz,
what gun do you have? I'd love to hear that. Tell me.
If Kamala Harris owns a gun, then I own a Prius. I'm just gonna say that. And I love my gas guzzling Toyota. But it's a case of like, they're suddenly, not the abortion extremists that have been sponsored by Emily's List and Planned Parenthood and Code Pink and everybody. They're strong on the border. They never supported defund the police. The funniest thing is when Kamala became a COVID truther and she's like, you withheld the Chinese origins of COVID. It's like, weren't you like destroying people's lives because of that? That's the one thing that completely none of the moderators remotely touched. And it's just like, did she just pull a full 180? Like suddenly she's about the Wuhan lab leak, which she said in 2020 was a racist dog whistle conspiracy theory.
Yup.
But it's nobody was convinced. But what is funny is that whenever you see a poll across ABC, Rasmussen, CNN, Trump won all the major points to look at, which were independents and battleground states, specifically talking about the economy. And according to CNN's poll of independents, before the debate, Kamala Harris was at 35% and Trump was at 53% approval for who would manage the economy better. Kamala went down to 33% and Trump went up to 55%. And you see this I was talking to my father the other day. I call my father the oracle of elections because my father, who never pays attention to shit about this, always predicts the winner. Always. And I'm just like, Dad, what are you going off of? And he's just like, I just think that way. So I spoke with him yesterday. I'm like, almighty oracle, praise be, who wins? And he's like, Trump. I'm like, okay, why? Did you watch the debate? He's like, no, but I saw the thing about them eating dogs. And that was all I needed to know.
So that for him was kind of like the reason, I guess. Is that
and mind you, my dad is so different than me politically. My dad has voted against candidates that I have worked for.
wow?
So like this is not
So he's legit.
He's legit. My dad and I will vote for completely different people. It was a 2013 election, and I was like, "Dad, did you go vote?" He's like, "Yeah, sorry, but I voted for this guy and said you're a guy. I just just don't want to risk it, man." And I'm like, "Dad," so understand, like that's where I'm coming from. This man makes no sense to me, but he's always right. So I will burn incense for him. And I don't know, like maybe treat him extra special around Christmas if Trump wins. But if he's saying that that's his gut feeling based off the minimal things that he has seen about this race, particularly that the one and only debate, or some people are calling it Trump's last dance debate, that's all I need to know.
Brian Nichols and Remso Martinez here on our AMP America Week in Review. We are live, by the way. We are live over on X.com as well as on the old We Are Libertarians Facebook page, which is now the Brian Nichols Show Part 2 Facebook page because I bought it. So, hey, everybody. Thanks for hopping on today. If you want to go ahead and get your comments in, we might read them on air. If they're naughty, then maybe not. But with all that being said, let me ask you this, folks. If listening to this conversation has got you saying, where is our country heading? Are we okay as a society? And you're like, well, maybe we're not, and I want to get the heck out of Dodge. Our next sponsor is the Expat Money Summit, and they might have an opportunity for you. Let's take a listen.
Hey everyone, Brian Nichols here with an incredible opportunity for you. The Expat Money Summit, which is the world's premier offshore event, is happening online from October 7th to October 11th. So whether you're just starting to explore international options or you're a seasoned expat, this summit has something for you. With over 40 speakers, including Dr. Ron Paul, Doug Casey, and more, you'll gain the knowledge and strategies to navigate the complex world of internationalization with confidence. And it's completely free to attend. Just visit expatmoneysummit.com to reserve your complimentary ticket. Don't miss this chance to learn how to secure your freedom and wealth abroad. One more time, expatmoneysummit.com. And now, back to the show.
And I'm getting roasted on Twitter right now because I posted our birds real meme, just jokey, ha ha ha. They're government drones, and everybody's like, Brian's off his meds again. It's a joke. There's no such thing as an offensive or stupid joke. That's why it's a joke. Just saying.
Much like birds.
What was that?
Much like birds.
Exactly. Everybody knows that they're government drones. Anyways, let's go ahead to. We talked about her VP candidate, Kamala Harris's VP candidate, Tim Walz. Let's talk about the actual candidate in Kamala Harris. Now, this is something I've been trying to explain, I guess, bring to the forefront. Yeah, because we all know explaining is losing. So I'm not explaining it, but I'm trying to bring it to the forefront. And that is Kamala Harris, Remso, is big business's favorite candidate. Elephant in the room. And I was talking specifically about this with Mark Cuban and why he's all about supporting Kamala Harris. But our good buddy Austin Peterson just wrote an article over at AMP America saying not only is Kamala Harris big business's best friend, but she has we talk about her not having a track record or it being very confusing. She has a track record here, and it's as Attorney General in California, as a state senator in California, U.S. senator in California, being very, very cozied up to big business and creating artificial loopholes for big business to have a more advantageous approach to the marketplace versus just your average, everyday, normal person in the market, Remso. So talk to us about Kamala. I mean, is she going to be a big business president, or is she going to actually stick to her narrative, and that is that she is a president for the little guy?
What you're going to see often, and you're already seeing this in states like California, where they're, giving money to illegal immigrants to put down payments on homes. You're going to see, we're going to raise taxes, but we're not going to give, money to big businesses for, like loans and shit like that. We're not going to try and push that. Look at the loop. And I use the COVID spending in 2020 as an example, because that was the biggest wealth transfer in U.S. history. And I think it's Patrick Bet-David who said that, every day a new billionaire was created. And while Walmart and Wall Street and Amazon and all their friends grew, Main Street America slipped. With my company, I work almost exclusively with small to mid-sized businesses. I see this all the time, and they're still recovering from the lockdowns of 2020.
Yep.
And when you look at the spending when it came out, less than a tenth of the overall COVID bill that gave people the stimulus checks and everything actually went to the people. Steve Mnuchin. And I was at the point where I was almost like, and people can disagree with me on this. I've seen a lot of merit to the arguments, but this is my individual stance. If you're going to lock down the economy, you might as well give people cash. So when Steve Mnuchin, former Secretary of Treasury under Trump, went ahead and said the American people need cash and they need cash now, I was like, yeah, because look what you people did.
JG Wentworth it.
Yeah, they need cash now. So it was a situation where what they do is they inflate the currency, which is expected in that situation. You're not going to do it otherwise. But you don't even give a majority of the cash to the people. You give it to Howard University, you give it to the Kennedy Center, you give it to Georgetown, you give it for upgrades of offices in the Cannon Building for the House of Representatives. You do you reinvest in jets for Congress. I mean, that's just a couple of the things that it went towards. But ultimately, the money that was distributed that was meant for the people was just sent to crony interests. But then when you look at where the money went from that, yeah, you gave Joe Schmo $2,000. Joe Schmo just gave it back to Amazon. Joe Schmo just gave it back to Walmart. Joe Schmo just gave it to people who had almost a virtual monopoly by, the fact that they were deemed essential and others weren't. You just gave them money. And it's no wonder that while Americans tried to put at least $1,000 in savings accounts, and the amount per savings account went up in 2020 through 2021. But what we've seen over the last several years is that for most of those people, especially the people that just finally opened savings accounts and put some of that COVID money away, I think the numbers, and somebody's going to be like, well, you got to thwart that. But I think it was somewhere around like now they are negative $500. Now they're actually less liquid than they were before. So when I look at this, I just look at the habits, and it always goes back to two things for me that people just kind of memory hold. It's TARP and it's Obamacare. TARP, which was voted on in the Senate in 2008. By John McCain and Obama, the one thing both presidential candidates that year agreed on was the banks are too big to fail. And this is bailing out Wall Street. This is bailing out Main Street. This is making sure that Americans can keep their homes, which is a lie.
I like your Obama, by the way.
So that happens. Thank you. And then what you have is Obamacare. And I mentioned this once because I did a debate in 2013 when I was a student. And then I actually had a conversation with a medical professional about this recently because as a small business owner, I was looking at my healthcare opportunities. The thing I said then is the exact same thing I said now. Is it insurance or is it a tax? The only reason why Obamacare exists is because Judge Roberts went ahead and as a judicial activist rewrote Obamacare as a tax.
Yup.
So what it forced people to do is it's like, you're going to pay this tax or you're going to buy insurance. So what it did, and when they were drafting Obamacare, all the major insurance companies and all the lobbies were there to help construct it. It's the biggest bamboozle, dude. It is guaranteed paydays for all the insurance companies in America. And what did premiums do after that? Premiums go, quality goes down, and no one is happy with it. And people are much like, I'd rather just pay the fine than pay for the shitty healthcare that I don't need, because it's, the fine's a little bit cheaper in some cases. But what all it did was it forced you to buy something that you either didn't want. And then there's the other lie. If you like your healthcare, you can keep it. That was a lie. It's just, you look at, it's not just where the money goes directly. It's where the money always circles up. And with Democrats, they might not do the tax cuts. They might not do the immediate loans that they always say that Republicans give to their special interests, but the money circulates. And it was Jason Stapleton on his show 3 years ago. This is 2021 post-COVID, as we're just figuring things out. Jason Stapleton mentioned reparations, and he was like, do it. Print out money, give reparations, because that money will immediately leave You will give it to people who will give it to other people. And him as a business owner is like, and when you give it to other people, immediately I'm going to be thinking, how do I take it from them?
Yep.
And that's a very logical thing. It's just, where does the money go? Where does it go? That's what Kamala Harris is trying to do with this. It looks one way, but what matters is the unintended consequences of when this happens, which I wouldn't even call it unintended consequences. It's just the science.
Just a consequence.
Bribe people with their own money, restrict the people who are makers and producers, and inflate the supply of circulating cash that will ultimately end up in just a handful of places.
Yep. And by the way, we talk about basic economics here on the show quite a bit, because economics really are the underlying like the metrics, or not metrics, the systems by which we really look at human behavior. It's all about opportunity costs, supply and demand, market forces, and then you look at supply and demand, right? Where is the demand coming from for people like Kamala Harris and these politicians to pass these insane bills, right? And one note, look no further than the amount of lobbyists in DC, Remso. If I had to just say, Remso, just give me a number, right? How many registered lobbyists as of 2023 do you think are in Washington, DC?
Well, here's a question. How many of them are American?
That's a great question. But let just across the board.
Thousands.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say 5 figures within a given year.
Yep, you're correct. 12,500.
Fuck, that was actually the number I was thinking too. I was like, it's got to be somewhere around like 10 to 12,000.
I mean, that's insane. There are 12,500 registered lobbyists for 435 members of Congress and an extra 100 in the U.S. Senate. So 535, right, relative to 12,500 lobbyists who have oceans of cash ready to toss at these politicians. I mean, there's a reason why Thomas Massey, he's like, listen, AIPAC, you want to come hang out with me in my office? That's fine. Take your AIPAC pin off, right? We can talk as people, but we're not going to talk as you, the lobbyist, who's like, hey, by the way, Thomas, you know, a couple $1,000 here and a couple $1,000 there. No, like, you want us to go support your campaign re-election fund? Yeah. Like, no, none of that. And that right there, that is, and by the way, I don't have an answer for this. Like, we understand, again, economics plays a role here because there is an incentive structure built in place. How do we get rid of this? Do we get rid of lobbying? Do we try to reform lobbying? Do we get rid of the incentive structures for politicians to accept these more or less bribes, right? And that's all lobbying really is. It's a glorified bribing of these politicians, which, by the way, I'm sure for a lot of folks out there, you're sitting there and you're like, this is insane, right? Like, what are we doing? And you're right, by the way, you are right, because this is insane. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, you know what, I don't know if my little heart can take any more of this insanity. There you go, Remso. I know you loved it.
Pivot.
I thought you'd appreciate that. You need to go ahead, by the way, and get our amazing studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. Let's take a listen. Hey, folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest. When I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80. And my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s. And I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle, and how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at the Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show. I always get picked on. They're like, what's that thing on your nose? What is that?
I've never noticed that in that video. And I have to accuse you of some false marketing too, Brian, because I've never seen people smiling while running.
Nobody's smiling when running. Their hearts are so happy, Remso.
What flavors does that come in?
It's all one flavor. It's like a fruit punch kind of vibe. By the way, like no BS. So it is one of the best supplements I've ever tasted. My wife gets this, I forget the name of the company, but it's like, it comes in this green package and it's supposed to be like a probiotic vitamin blend. And they tout like it's the best tasting supplement ever. I tried it and it tastes like pukey bubble gum. It is horrible. I try Cardio Miracle. And by the way, if there's a testament to how good the flavor is, my daughter, I would be making Cardio Miracle in the morning and she'd be like, Dad, what is that? No, she doesn't say it like that, obviously. But she would want a sip and I'd give her a sip and she loves it. She thought it was the best thing. So now when I make it in the morning, she goes, Miracle, Miracle. And she gets so excited. So if a 17-month-old is loving the flavor of Cardio Miracle, I guarantee you're going to love it as well. Now, to your other question / my comment, what's that nose thing? So I have a horrible deviated septum. Like, it's terrible, right? So what that is, it's called an intake breather. By the way, I'm actually working on a sponsorship deal with them. So here's your free ad, intake breathing. I love intake breather because it has these two little pads you put on either side of your nostrils, and they got little magnets in them. And then you put that little strip on, and it's got metal plates on the side, and it pulls and opens up your nasal pathways so you can actually breathe. I use it at night, and then I use it in the morning when I work out, and it has like changed my ability to work out and actually breatde.
It's a sleep tape thing. People never see it because it's not a side profile, but like I broke my nose when I was a teenager. And, I didn't need any reconstruction on it. My nose is fine, but like, I've developed some really bad snoring. So I tried sleep tape and other stuff. So when I saw that, I'm like, I wonder if he snores and if he has that problem.
Thankfully, no snores. It's just like, I can't get air in, like, because my nose will literally just like clog up. I'm sorry for the audio listener who's like, that is the worst ASMR I've ever heard in my life. Sorry. Yes, it is. By the way, we are live for the folks. I see we got a couple hundred folks jumping in and out here the stream. So we are streaming over on X, Twitter, as well as over on Facebook on the old We Are Libertarians Facebook page. Now, the Brian Nichols Show Part 2 until we can officially merge them. But right now, my main page got
back.
We sure do, and the Force will awaken. No, it won't. I'm just gonna. We're gonna cut the sequels out because those are not fun. Anyways, all this talk about heart health and breathing better, it all is aligned to healthcare, and healthcare is definitely a big part. Ready for this, Remso? Of a certain Project 2025. And by the way, Remso, this has been the boogeyman. I've heard nonstop from folks complaining about Project 2025, saying this is the end of America. If Donald Trump wins, he's going to take this Heritage Foundation brainchild and he's going to enact it into policy. Remso, talk to us. What is Project 2025? And is Trump going to implement this into a Part 2 Trump administration?
It's Hitler 2.0, Brian. Haven't you heard? It's going to bring back Voldemort. It's going to reinstall slavery, Holocaust 2.0, robot invasion, Handmaid's Tale. No, what this is this is a giant policy proposal packet that the Heritage Foundation puts out all the time. And they really started doing it with Ronald Reagan in 1980, in which they started basically putting out these papers, which would be a recommendation of conservative solutions to things that this foundation believes would help America better out economically, socially, and national security wise. They do this all the time. They rebrand it all the time. Whether or not politicians take it is up to themselves, but they push it. And I forgot what it was called by Heritage during the
mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. Just highlight it here on the screen for folks.
Yeah, like this is just what they do all the time. So what they did was the Harris administration is failing. And the truth is, the Harris campaign is failing. And we can tell you that because
sorry, that was a Freudian slip that was just too good to let go because
I should really call it Obama's third term.
Yes.
But like this is if Trump's policies were so bad, Kamala wouldn't be stealing all of them. But the thing is that, Project 2025 by the Heritage Foundation actually dives into way more social stuff than they typically have been before. And other organizations throughout the country do it. In Wisconsin, we had this failure of a piece put out by this one failing nonprofit that's supposed to be run with conservatives called Mandate for Madison. Well, they got behind the wrong conservatives. Next, the Democrats won and they just slapped that down. But like, this is not... Wow. The reason why is because Heritage deep dived more into social stuff, much as like, no contest divorce, no fault divorce and stuff like that they tried saying, oh, well, you see, Trump is going to fill his cabinet full of these heritage people who have all this dangerous plans that they want to implement. And Trump was like, I don't even know what it is. And it's not my campaign. And you can tell that because compare the GOP platform that was voted on at the convention, look at Trump's policies on his website, compare it to Kamala's, which I think it's still glitching. They haven't put it up yet. We're only 60 days away. And then compare it to 2025. Besides, whenever old school Republicans, anyone that was basically bought and paid for by these lobbying mechanisms that had like old estate money tied in from dead rich people, they always used to tout it. Mitt Romney used to do that. Bush used to do that. Big Republican accomplishment of the past 16 years prior to Trump was what? Medicaid Part D. So Trump looks at this, and he's been saying this for months. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't write it. I don't know it if it makes you feel better. And I don't want to be influenced by other people, because the problem that Trump admits from his first administration is that he was asking other people, his advisors, the Christies and everyone else, to help him fill his cabinet and help him fill the government with like 60,000 jobs. So who are they going for? They're going for all the policy pushers and everything else. And you have historically had heritage people involved. This time, though, Trump has made it very clear, not everyone is just getting rubber stamped approval. And he has basically said, listen, I'm not for this. And if it makes you feel better, notice how it's always like the policy wonks who attack him. On the pro-life matters that people have been very confused about, they've been attacking him. The Harris administration has to push this because they've got nothing else. And what I would throw back to anyone that brings Project 2025 is like, okay, notice how Trump said he has nothing to do with that, but why is it each time he puts out something good, Harris takes it? Like today, he went ahead and said, no taxes on overtime pay. I can't wait till tomorrow comes out and Harris is like, you know what? No more taxes on overtime pay. It's time enough to let go of what has been. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Kamala. And
we are going forward, not back.
Yeah, Amber Heard must have been her acting coach on Tuesday. But like that's the case. Like Trump, he made the joke. He's like, she's taking so many of my policies, I almost felt like sending her a MAGA hat.
Yep. But that's apparently he sent it to Joe Biden instead.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's a series of policy proposals that the Heritage Foundation put out. It's got nothing to do with Trump. Apparently, one of the architects of Project 2025 said, oh, yeah, we've met with Trump's team about it and we've talked to them about it. You know how many people have conversations? Brian, in 2016, I remember I was at an election night party for a campaign I was working at. People that night were walking around having gotten phone calls from people on the Trump campaign. And I just remember all these people running around. I'm going to be working in the administration. One, half those people didn't. Two, you got a lot of people talking, trying to make them their connections now because they don't know what's happening. The campaign staff rarely get cabinet positions because you want to kind of start fresh when it comes to forming a government. But I had
to share this picture really quick, just for folks playing on the home game. Joe Biden literally did wear a Trump hat, by the way, just for folks. I don't want to get hit with the fake news moniker, but it happened.
Brian, be better. You know the truth.
he was just putting it on to make a play for unity.
I got a funny.
Yeah,
I got a funny story for you, Brian. A couple weeks ago, I was in Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee for a Trump Force 47 event. That's one of his initiatives that he puts out where he's actually having people state to state go and speak about the policies that will matter to voters in that state. It was on the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee campus. I was there with my wife. My Uber driver dropped us off in front of a protest, and they all had Project 2025 needs to go, learn Trump's plan today. And I'm just looking at this. I'm like, it's just factually wrong. So I'm walking over to the event, and I look like a Republitron 3000. I'm wearing a blue suit, red tie, and American flag pin because that's how I roll these days. And my wife looks like a Fox News Fox. So of course everyone zeroes in on us. So this woman who looks like a crackhead comes out and she's like, "Sir, do you know about Trump's 2025 plan?" And I look at her and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I don't speak English." I said it like that. "I don't speak English. I'm sorry." "You don't speak English? What do you speak?" I'm like, "Ma'am, I hear you, but I don't understand English. Have a good day." And this man on a walker, like 300 pounds, can't even hold his sign because it's under his armpit because he has to like struggle to breathe because of decades of bad decisions. He's like, "So what do you speak, punk?" And I'm just like, these people, they hate Trump so much. They hate Trump so much. They're backing a woman who's never won a single primary in any of in her previous presidential election. They canceled the previous primary election against Robert F. Kennedy and Marianne Williamson and that other dude because they wanted to keep up this facade that Biden was, climbing Mount Everest. And then what they did was they instituted perhaps a CIA-backed coup in the last 75 days to put this Potemkin, candidate in. And now what we have is, her saying that we need to vote for her to save democracy. Like, these people don't care. And this is a lie. And for anyone that's being questioned by this, be like, Trump never said that he endorsed 2025. He hasn't read it. He hasn't approved it. But if his policies are so bad, why does Kamala keep taking them? That's all I'd ask. And then you walk away and say, "I don't speak English. Have a good day."
Lo siento. No hablo inglés, señor. Two things that I think where we are right now. First, we are in one of the most tribal moments I've seen our country in quite some time. Very much a tribal mentality. It's my side versus your side, my team versus your team. It's almost like we have a glorified football game going on between red team, blue team. Only instead of it being professional football players and athletes, it's a bunch of professional nerds who are playing. That's number one. Number two, this is gaslighting to the extreme. The Kamala Harris campaign, I almost said administration, the Kamala Harris team, and candidly, the Biden administration, and that is more or less the Obama 3.0, as we talked about. When you look at that type of approach they've taken of just gaslighting, no wonder so many folks are either completely just tuned out. They have no idea what's real. And they're like, I don't have the time, energy, and effort to sift through it to understand what is real and what's not. But also number two, they're like, I'm just burnt the fuck out, guys. I politics, and this is how it used to be, right? This the even years, those were your pardon the football expression again, but that would be like your Super Bowls, and then the midterm elections, those are like your playoff games, right? Like, this was the nerds big thing. Like, you'd have your midterm elections, your presidential elections. That's when you nerded out. And then when it was done, you didn't turn off, but you took a step back. And where we are today, the nerd Olympics are just nonstop, right? It's constant hyperbolic. Like, this is the end of the world. Project 2025. Everybody's gonna be walking around in Handmaid's Tale outfits. Like, this is the approach that we've gotten to today, where not only is it nonstop political season, but now it's scaled up to the point where just talking about the stuff as it is, it doesn't like actually push the needle. What works is gaslighting, lying, over flooding information, both true and false, or somewhere in between. And by the way, Remso, we had one of our listeners here, Chris, reach out. He said, maybe, Remso, your dad only focuses on the issues voters actually care about. And turns out the noise and the biases, right? That could be it. So I mean, yeah, like, what do we talk about here on the show? meet people where they're at on the issues they care about, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Our good buddy there, Mr. Koval, said it's a conversation between the politically correct and the people who are just correct. And by the way, right there, that's spot on, right? We see this so often where folks are like, well, is that the right thing? Is that moral? It's like, listen, lady, listen, thing. I'm not arguing with you about what your context of what is politically correct is, or what your version of what right is. We're living in the real world. We gotta take a step back, get out of the idealism, start addressing things for as they are versus the way we want them to be. But I mean, at the end of the day, there is right and wrong, right? There is factually correct and factually incorrect. And when somebody is factually incorrect, we have to call them out for their BS, but also we have to not go down that pathway. Don't say you're wrong and here's why, and then spend 40 minutes explaining why that person's wrong. Show they're wrong and then give the right answer, right? Show the actual correct pathway. Because it's one thing to say somebody's wrong and then go into the weeds, but when we are explaining, you're losing, right? But when we go out and we're saying, no, this is wrong, and here's the truth, short, sweet, and succinct, and you make it so it matters to the average person, that's when that resonates. Now, people often ask me, Remso, Brian, there's a lot of stuff that you and Remso talk about. And Brian, you just flew in, like you got in like at 12 o'clock last night. How on earth are you even functioning today? And I'll tell you how I function. It's through another phenomenal sponsor here, the Brian Nichols Show, and that is our good friends over at Clockham Coffee. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Are you sick of bland, bitter coffee that relies on sugar and cream just to be drinkable? You deserve better. Most coffees are over-roasted, destroying subtle flavors and leaving you with a burnt taste in your mouth. That's where Clockham Craft Coffee is different. Their carefully crafted roasts preserve every nuance, from chocolatey notes to fruity hints. Rediscover what coffee should taste like. Choose Clockham Craft and wake up to flavor, not frustration. And by the way, Brian Nichols Show listeners, get 10% off your order using code BNS10 at clockhamcraft.coffee. Link in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
So Clockham Craft Coffee, by the way, my good buddy Will Reichland, this is his company. He's done an amazing job. He sent me a care package. It was a big box of coffee, and it was every different iteration. It's incredible. I'm not just saying that because he's a sponsor on the show. And by the way, I'm very picky choosy, Remso, of who is sponsors on the show. And he actually was like, I know that, so I'm sending you the coffee. I want you to try it first. And I'll tell you what, from light roast to dark roast to extra dark roast to decaf, half calf, all that in between, it's all great. My favorite was the medium blend. It's smooth, but it's got enough zip so you get the energy from it. So yeah, Clockham Craft Coffee, folks. I'm a big fan of them. Please go ahead, give them some love. And it's a small L libertarian organization company. So let's support our own, right? Like we talk about the parallel economy. There you go. Actually, my good buddy Mark Lobliner, Tiger Fitness. He's a great dude. And he was just on Tim Pool back a couple weeks ago. And he said this. He's like, we got to stop doing business with people who hate us, right? Elephant in the room, the Brian Nichols from Starbucks, the new CEO. It's not me. Everybody's asking, Brian, what are you doing at Starbucks? Yeah,
oh my gosh.
It's not me. It's not me. Because if it was me, Starbucks would have a very different approach to their messaging and marketing, i.e., it wouldn't be about trying to be divisive. It would be about creating something that people can just enjoy for being a great quality product. But Starbucks isn't a great quality product. It's very, very expensive, and they push a lot of leftist gobbledygook. So guess what? I'm not supporting them with my hard-earned dollars. I'm going to support delicious coffee, first and foremost, but folks who actually not even just like support your ideas, just they don't hate you. Now, Bill, William, sorry, Bill. He likes to support libertarian ideas and organizations, but that's just like an added benefit on top of it's just a good quality product. So Clockham Craft Coffee, they're a brand new sponsor. Really excited to have them here on the show. Link there in the show notes. Remso, we're going towards our final thoughts for today. And by the way, we've had a lot of folks jumping in and out here of the live stream. So thank you to everybody who's been joining in. Thank you to the folks who've gone ahead and submitted some comments. And by the way, if you didn't realize that, you're listening to the audio version after the fact. Yes, you can catch the Brian Nichols Show Week in Review with Remso live, and the time is usually TBD because life. So don't worry. We always announce it, though. I do a little preview over on social media. So follow yours truly at B Nichols Liberty. You'll see the notification there on Fridays or Saturdays, depending on when Remso and I can sit down to hit that magic record button. But Remso, final thoughts for the day. Where do you want people to take away from today's episode? Wrap us up in a nice, neat bow here.
Do you see that?
The Republicans are calling you. Look at that. They're listening to the show, and they know that this. I can almost guarantee it's going to be some lady being like, "Hello, Mr. Martinez. This is Beverly calling from the Republican National Committee. Right now, we're in a very hard battle between the Republicans and the Democrats, and we need everybody's support. Can I take you down for $15 today to make sure we keep Kamala Harris out of the White House?" Going to guarantee that's a talk track.
This is what I get for buying that second MAGA hat.
Send yours to Biden next time, okay?
I will. We should all start flooding the White House mailroom with MAGA hats for Joe and Kamala.
They'll love it. Remso, hit us with your final thoughts there, buddy.
Project 2025 isn't real. Tim Walz probably pierces his nipples. Kamala Harris is a communist, and you got to make a plan to go out and vote.
Okay. I'm going to follow that up. So if you enjoy Remso talking about Tim Walz's nipples, please make sure you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss.
He's like a very flowy person, and he's always like, like all up in here. Like he's just like if Cuomo does it, if Andrew Cuomo does it,
he's the effeminate Midwest guy from Schitt's Creek.
Tim Walz totally pierces his nipples, and we should say that to everyone we know. Be like, listen, I just feel like he pierces his nipples. You're not saying he pierces his nipples, but we just need to get that out there. Like, listen, I couldn't listen to him because I just keep thinking that his nipples are pierced. So
we're going to get flagged. We're going to get nuked. YouTube's going to be like, they're spreading election disinformation. We said it.
I just feel like he gives off pierced nipple energy.
On that note, yes, pierced nipple energy and all. I really appreciate everyone joining us here today for our week in review. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, Project 2025. We dug through a lot of stuff. Say it again.
Nipple Tim.
Just you need to write down every single possible name you can think of for Tim Walz, and we'll have to make an entire episode around that.
Pierced nipples.
Pierce nipples. There you go. Pierce nipples and all. I think we're going to go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation. Didn't know how we were going to end up here, but we did. And I love it. And for that, thank you to everybody who's joined us here today. If you got some value from our weekend review, two things. Go ahead. First, give us a subscribe over on your favorite platforms, which we are airing our show live over on X and on Facebook. So make sure you followed us over there first. But number two, go to your favorite video platforms like YouTube, Rumble. We re-air the show at 6:30 at night on Fridays or Saturdays when we air. So just make sure you go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you missed the live chat, still head down below into the comments. Let us know your thoughts. And one final plug. Please support all the folks who support us, our phenomenal sponsors like Amp America, Cardio Miracle, Clockham Craft Coffee, and our good friends over at the Expat Money Summit 2024. All those links for our sponsors are found over on our homepage, briannicholsshow.com/sponsors, or down below in the show notes. Remso, we're going to wrap things up there. Anything you want to leave the audience with today? Pierce nipples.
Tim Walz very much likely pierces his nipples.
All right. And with that, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show. You can find me at B Nichols Liberty. Find Remso at Hey Remso or Go Remso over on Instagram. With that being said, have a phenomenal weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.